Where are all my friends? Adam Christgau. I'm freaking hyped, dude.
Same, dude. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Thanks for doing it. I love like this exact moment, this setup, the way that this came to be is literally my favorite way a podcast can happen, where we met through a mutual friend. Shout out Tatiana, who was also on the podcast.
Absolutely.
A like low-key, homey, like get-together kind of like cookout party.
What's the name of the dessert you brought? It's the best thing I've ever had.
I'll get it.
Okay.
They're the cream puffs, but
are they like a Polish dessert or like a Eastern European
I wish I could make it sound fancier than what it is, but it's like literally at Smart and Final. It's a frozen tub.
I still think about it.
It's my go-to party. If it's like bring sweets, I'll be like, say less, I got you. It's such a fun thing to bring to a party.
I honestly, I don't want to bite off your style, but every time I'm going to a party, I'm like, oh, is this the day where I go and get the thing?
Have you done it yet?
No, because I always forget that it's Smart and Final.
Yeah. Please text me when you do it.
Okay.
Please text me.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit of a bold move. People aren't right away to grab them, but once people getting at them, it's the hit.
Once you pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Pringles of dessert food. Anyway, I'm glad you're here on this podcast to talk about dessert foods.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into that.
No, but I love when friendships happen supernaturally. And when we met that day, I was instantly fascinated by what you were up to. Like, you have this cool thing where you're in music, but you're also kind of more than just a musician doing a lot of cool stuff. And that really stands out to me. And you were just a good hang. Like, we just had like a bunch of fun stuff to talk about, but I don't know your professional career story. I think there's a lot there. Mm-hmm. So I'm super hyped to sit down, like knowing you as a homie, but not knowing your career story, to like dig in and learn some.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I feel like you and I met at a time where this furniture business that I've spawned over the past few years was taking over my life more than I anticipated, and also more than music had been for the previous 37 years of my life.
Wow.
You know, there's like quite a few people in my life that I've met in the past 3 to 5 years who still have never seen me play drums and still don't know that it's a part of my identity and still don't know that I've been doing it since I was 3. You know, like it's a really weird shift. Yeah. Meeting people at this time is unique.
Whoa. Because that is super unique, because does that mean, I think of that as a good thing, where clearly then your furniture business is legit enough and you're good enough at doing that people could only know you as that and not be like, oh, cool, that's Adam's side gig.
Yeah, it's great in that regard. And then it's also weird for the internal monologue and the ego and all that.
I struggled with that a little bit. Of like, my beginning roots in my professional career was like tour manager and touring with bands. Right. And now, like, I don't want to say it feels like a lifetime ago, but like, I've definitely tried a lot of things to find my place. And I'm sure that life will always be evolving. So for you to have this identity of like, I tour with bands, I play drums, I do this. And then it's like, oh yeah, what's up? I build furniture. It's like, huh?
Yeah. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
As we get into that, because I actually don't even know this, you've toured with a lot of crazy bands.
Yeah. I have a specialty of coming in kind of last minute and learning songs, you know, for one gig at a time.
Yep.
And then that echelon of artists has run the gamut from like Weezer to this band Fits in the Tantrums. And I've toured extensively with Miley Cyrus and Tegan and Sara and Sia. I toured from the very beginning with this guy, Troye Sivan, for a little bit.
What? I didn't know.
Yeah. Played his first show that he ever played in his entire life with him, and then toured for the next 2 or 3 years with him during that. I played with Noah Cyrus here and there. There's a lot of those kind of gigs where people just call last minute. So
didn't you do something for Brian with Billie Eilish too?
Well, yeah, this is a very interesting, you know, moment, and maybe this arena is the only place I can like ever talk about it publicly, because I can't really put it on my resume. But yeah, you know, COVID times, people started calling me just to have me learn a set of music and be a backup in case their drummer got COVID last minute and needed to. Oh my God.
Because if you're touring at that level, it's already such a risk. There were so many precautions.
Yeah,
if your artist, if your headlining main artist has a band,
right,
and if a musician, like anyone in the band falls out, you can't risk that.
Right. So I was on hold with Billie Eilish.
Holy crap.
For 3 months.
Wow.
During her US run.
But then did you play or no?
I never ended up playing with her.
Nuts. But you
No.
learned the whole set.
I learned the whole set.
Crazy.
Her drummer, I've known since he was 16 years old. He's a very dear friend. Our mutual friend, Brian Marquis, is the tour manager. Brian and I were in a hardcore band in high school together.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah. I met Brian when I was 14 or 15 years old. Seventh, eighth grade. Yeah. So
Wow.
13, 14. We were in a hardcore band when I was 15.
Yeah.
I couldn't drive a car yet. And still to this day, like my folks wouldn't let me get in a car with Brian at that point. They were like, no way in hell we trust him. We're going to drive you to gigs. And Brian still gives me shit for it to this day. And I'm like, dude, you were crazy. I'm not going to there's no way I was going to get in a car with you. Anyway, there's a lot of family in the Billie Eilish camp.
Yeah.
They trusted me enough to come in and kind of do that for a few months. And Andrew ended up getting COVID on the first day of their 8-day long break. And I was like, okay, I guess this is it. But also he's got 8 days to recover. Yeah. He's got 8 days to test negative. Yeah. And by, day 8, it was like either I was flying to Alabama the next day to play the gig, or he was just going to do it and they were going to put a mask on him for the gig if he was still testing positive. Who knows what they were going to do. Yeah. And he tested negative right in time. And I didn't get to play the gig.
That's so weird because obviously you want your homies to not be sick and to do their thing. That's such a weird thing to be the backup for that. That's got to be a weird psychological thing, huh?
It was, I don't wish anybody to get COVID. I don't wish harm on my buddy especially, but of course I would love to play that gig. Are you kidding? Yeah. The music is great. She's playing awesome shows. Hell yeah, of course I would love to do that.
I'm blown away though. It's so funny to me because I wanted you to rattle off the names just like this. But in my head, when I was preparing mentally for the little bits I knew, for some reason, it really stuck with me. Just Tegan and Sara off of us talking, that stood out. I was like, oh, Adam, yeah, plays for Tegan and Sara. And you just rattled off such crazy names. And I'm like, Tegan and Sara, though. Sick.
Well, so man, crazy. I just did a tour with them for the first time in 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Hadn't toured with them since, 2014, in the midst of different record cycles coming into play, moving places, whatever. I couldn't do the past touring. And then this one just lined up perfectly, and it was a month and it was super easy. I was like, yeah, of course I would love to do it.
So sick.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
And it was fun.
Yeah, it was great.
I'm a big fan of theirs. I think they're I always respect artists that maintain a lifelong career and continue to push. And I remember they really had a moment in the early 2010s when I first found them. And then they put that album out, Hey, I'm Just Like You, which was old stuff. But I remember going to a show. I don't know, maybe you played, maybe not. I don't remember I don't think they had a drummer, but it was half, it was a book or something.
Oh, the book release tour. I didn't play that.
So well done.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite tours. It's interesting. I've talked to a couple fans about it, and it seems to be slightly polarizing.
Really?
Yeah, most of the people I talked to were like, yeah, that was one of the most beautiful tours, especially of theirs if you're a fan of theirs. Yeah. And there was a couple of fans who were just like, no, I didn't like it. They didn't play enough music.
Crazy.
2.
Crazy. Yeah. But it's funny. I would love to see you play a show with them now. That's so sick.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've played drums for a lot of huge names.
Yeah.
And you are very familiar with being the touring drummer for bands. However, I was very curious of where the beginning of all this happened. And you said that you played in a hardcore band with Brian Marquis.
Yeah.
Brian Marquis is now Billie Eilish's tour manager.
Yeah.
But he came from the Warped Tour world. Yeah. He's very respected amongst all of that whole scene. He's just this really incredible dude. And I remembered that he was from the Northeast.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that you guys played together. So is that kind of the beginning of you getting in bands, or take me back to then?
If we're going all the way back, right out of the gate, I was playing drums on anything possible as a little kid, to the point where for my 3rd birthday, my mom was like, we're just getting you drums because there's no question that that's what you want to do. That's what's going on.
Wow, that's so cool.
So that was there was never a question in my mind, really. Both my folks are musicians. Thankfully, they took me out to see music when I was a little kid all the time. Yeah. What really got me hooked is my dad he's a guitar player. He was studying guitar. He would go out and see his teachers playing in New York City, bootleg the shows, bring them back, and we'd listen together. And then I was just specifically, there was a drummer named Zach Danziger who was 16 when he was playing on all these recordings. And I was like, wait, I'm 4, he's 16. That gives me, 12 years to get this together. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that.
That's so sick, because I feel like you'll talk to people and it's one of the two, but there are people that from that early on, they just knew. Like literally on like the earliest kid shit, the earliest memories, like certain singers I've talked to, like whatever it is, that thing, it's really that early.
Yeah, wow. Totally. Around 11 to 12, there was like, I'm going to be a baseball player, and I think I could be pretty good at it.
But by 11 or 12, did you rip on the drums?
I wouldn't say I've ripped, but I did pretty good.
Yeah.
And generally up until late high school and college was a self-taught musician. So that oftentimes has its drawbacks. Like I still am a horrible reader. If I have to sight read music if I'm playing on a film score or something like that, I'm not as good at that as most people are. But at the same time, playing by ear gets you in a much wider berth of music to choose from, because your ears are training you at all times to kind of blend in with whatever genre you're playing at the time. And I thought for a long time it was just going to be like I was going to be a jazz musician who also did other gigs here and there. And I went to college as a jazz major. I went to a performing arts high school, and that was all jazz concentrated and world music concentrated a little bit. So me just being in a hardcore band was just trying to be, spread that berth as wide as possible and do as many things musically as I could.
See, but this is really interesting to me, because if you from that early on, like that path of drummer could have gone in so many different ways, right? Like
totally.
You can be like, all right, cool, I'm going to be the best like jazz world, anything. You could be the best studio musician, or you could be like, I'm gonna go start a band with my friends and like tour the world.
Yeah.
So that's like, did you have the desire? Did you want it to be your band, or did you just want to play?
I just wanted to play.
Really?
Even when I got to college and it was the jazz concentration, I would go to all like the songwriting majors and all the studio production majors. Freshman year ended up like getting in a band with a dear friend of mine, this guy, Dan Romer, who's now a really successful film composer. We still work together, all the time. It's been, 21 plus years that we've been working together. And it was just like, jazz is great. It's going to give me the facility to do whatever I want musically. And then the rest will kind of fall into place.
Okay, so then the fact that you played drums in a hardcore band with Brian Markey in high school is like extra funny, because like you weren't really trying to be like Warped Tour kid and have your own band.
No, and I never went on Warped Tour.
No way.
Yeah, I just like, for whatever reason, that is just like a void that just like slipped by.
That's so nuts.
Probably thankfully, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean it's like, it was just a moment in time. I'm very thankful for it. And it was like, that was my college of life, and like how I met a lot of the first foundational people.
Yeah.
It's just a moment,
Yeah.
But you play in a band, but then you did go to college and all that. So did you tour at all? Did you do like regional East Coast stuff? Like, did you get a taste enough to be like, yo, I'm in on this? Because it's funny to me that you've now toured so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like, do whatever you can to play with artists that will get you to tour around the world. I came from a pretty humble financial upbringing amongst a lot of wealth in Connecticut.
Really?
Yeah. Always just ended up, and I was born in northern New Jersey. It's become a very affluent area because of the proximity to New York City. Same with Connecticut. You're just living amongst a lot of wealth. And all of those friends of mine were like, yeah, we're going to Paris for vacation, or we're going skiing in the Swiss Alps because we can afford to do that. And then it was like, oh, we're graduating college and I'm just going to take a gap year and travel around Europe for, 3 months and then go to New Zealand. And And I was like, I could never afford to do that. My family can't afford to do that.
Oh, you're saying all these other people are doing that.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. And so like, that being said, I was like, music is going to be my ticket to go do that.
That's funny. I had a very similar experience.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I always had a roof and food, but when I started selling merch and then TMing for my friends, when we got out of the state of Florida and it wasn't like the gas money wasn't my gas money paying for it, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So that's funny. Like that was your ticket.
Yeah,
you put that
absolutely.
together.
Absolutely. So it was like, whatever I have to do to like, musically find the right avenue for that, hopefully while holding on to my integrity and enjoying the music that I'm playing and, feeling good about all that.
Yeah.
That'll provide that. The college band that I was in with Dan Romer, we like tours very loose. It was like taking the Honda Civic up to Boston from New York and then like back to New York.
Yeah. Like you could do the weekend runs, like regional little. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That wasn't it. But you did figure out that touring could be your ticket to like travel the world and see that. Did you graduate college?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah.
So you probably didn't start proper touring until after that? How did that all shake out?
I kind of call it the elimination method in a way. And I guess you could equate it to like writing a goal list. But I would always kind of say, okay, the blanket picture is like, I want to make a living doing music related things. So whatever that is, it was teaching lessons. I accompanied a lot of modern dance classes, which was a lot of fun. And I learned a whole lot from it. It was incredible. And then of course, recording sessions, playing live shows, touring, Broadway shows, whatever else would fall into that. And then I realized like the teaching lessons started turning into like babysitting. It wasn't fulfilling anymore. The accompanying dance classes was cool, but it was kind of a slog. So then all I want to do now is eliminate the lessons, eliminate the dance classes, and then just focus on playing shows and recording. And that's it.
Yeah.
And see if I can do it that way.
Nice.
And then, like little by little, you see those things fade out and fade in.
Yeah.
Then it becomes like, okay, well then I only want to be playing music that I actually like. Okay, then I only want to be playing music where I'm going to tour at X level.
That's a less than traditional path. Like music in the early days is risky and there's not a lot of money and it's not very like well, it can be rewarding, but it's a risky path.
Yeah.
Was there any moments in that where you were like, yo, maybe this isn't it? Or were you just so dead set on like, this is my shit, I'm gonna figure this out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Option B.
Yeah.
Option B.
Okay.
Option A kind of came in later, ironically enough, like after some success started coming into the fold.
Okay. Well, then my next question was, what was your first moment of success when you're like, all right, cool lessons. Nah, we're good. I'm just going to go all in on like what was your first, like, oh my God, I just got this tour?
In 2009, I ended up going on tour with this guy named Joshua Radin, who he's not an LA native, but he had been based in LA at the time.
Yeah.
Is very close friends with Zach Braff, ended up getting a lot of music placed on Scrubs and ended up getting a lot of European recognition. So I knew the bass player at the time. I didn't know the keyboard guitar player, and they pulled me in, and then the first tour was in Europe.
Damn.
And as a music nerd, we land in Sweden. Yeah. I have Swedish descent. Had never been over there. We're in my homeland, whatever that means. Yeah. And it's the middle of summer, so it's like always light out and just dusk. Yeah. And we land and go to the festival on the first night, and Neil Young is headlining. I was brought up on Neil Young's music. My mom is, a huge fan of his. And it was just like, oh, wow, this is okay. This is it.
That is an important moment. I think everybody that has like that creative career, like that drive, has those days or those like very specific moments where you're like, I am exactly where I need to be at the exact right time, and this is everything.
Yeah,
that was that for you.
That was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How old were you at that time?
Great question. 27.
Oh wow. So like,
is that right? Yeah.
You had paid some dues. Like you weren't like young kids straight fresh out of college being like, whoa, it worked. Like you, from the 4-year-old you to 27, like that was a journey.
Yeah.
And then you have this moment where you're like, all right, I'm out here, Europe, like proper festival, proper tour.
Yeah. And like also seeing bands that I grew up listening to. And, we later on that exact tour in London, Neil Young is headlining. We're like, yeah, let's go see Neil again. This will be great. And the encore, he brings Paul McCartney out.
No way.
And they play A Day in the Life. They play a couple other songs. And I couldn't talk for like 2 hours afterwards. Just like, what is going on? Next thing I know, I'm being ushered into a van. My friend's father is Bruce Springsteen's manager. And she's like, yeah, we're going to Bruce's after party. I was like, what is going on?
Oh my God.
This is absurd.
Good. Yeah, I love hearing those moments because it's like, I don't know, the whole idea with the podcast is like, if you have that vision, keep going. But it's like, dude, you were 27. Like the fact, like that's a lot of dedication. That's a lot of time. But then you get that moment and you're like, here we go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's so sick. So then what happens from there?
go back to New York,
Yeah.
slog it out,
Really?
playing small clubs again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where I was playing 4 to 6 nights a week in the Lower East Side, doing 50 to 100 cap rooms.
No way. And is that just like random bands hiring you? Like random
Yeah,
bands?
and
that
mostly singer-songwriters.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
It was right around that time where like people who play guitar quietly and sing quietly were getting a real leg up in the spotlight, so to speak. And I was just someone who could play quietly, and that's all they knew. So that's why I was getting work. Ironic because of the hardcore upbringing.
I know,
thing.
yeah. But I mean, I guess you have a pretty wide range. Like you're like, all right, quiet, yeah, or you want to rip, whatever, sure. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then do you have another moment where like another band hits you up, or like what's your next like, oh my God?
I was meant to go out on the road with an artist opening for the Black Keys.
Wow.
She ended up wanting to rehearse an absurd amount of time and didn't want to pay a lot of money to do it.
Yeah.
And I requested a certain amount of rehearsals instead, and she found another drummer, and I ended up out on tour with this other guy who was really great, but we were touring in like a Scion XB.
No way.
And he didn't have his driver's license, so I drove the whole time. And he also was having vocal problems, so he couldn't talk for most of the time. So it was a grueling thing.
You've been through it.
But he was so generous, and he was like, yeah, this singer named Sia is looking for a new drummer, and I put your name in the hat. Because I know you would probably have a great time doing it. I was like, okay, that's okay, cool.
Did you know who Sia was at the time?
I knew 07.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't watched 6 Feet Under, but a lot of people know her from 6 Feet Under. But no, I had no idea.
Right.
And
it was pretty early for her too, to like that was like right when it was starting to like really happen, right?
Yes, that was just the 6 Feet Under finale had been out for maybe a year at that point. I could be wrong in that timeline, but it was 2010.
Okay. I'm going to be 100% honest.
Yeah.
Did not know she was in 6 Feet Under.
Well, okay. I should preface, her song is the last 5-6 minutes of the last episode of the show.
Oh, it's like the way that like Phantom Planet is associated with the OC.
Yes, 1,000,000%.
Okay. I was like,
Right.
I didn't know she acted as well.
Yeah, no.
Okay, all right. Sometimes as the podcast host, that's a funny moment what I just did there, because I can like smile and nod and be like, cool. And no one's gonna know, and like you'll carry the story. I could have cheated it, but that was a moment where I was like, I'm gonna throw that out there. We'll see where this takes us.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did. I've learned. We've all learned together.
Yeah. So, like I toured with her pretty extensively. There was a lot of aha moments on that tour, especially that's still, and no offense to anyone who I've played with since, that's still like the highlight band for me.
Certain artists just treat band and crew so fucking well. And it's like such a great experience through and through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every tour has its stuff. This was like the band was just extra special. I mean, the bass player even, this was 2010 to 2011. And the bass player texted me a video of us 2 days ago. I was like, hey man, you got to check this out again. And it sounds great. And I'm so proud of that era. And I wish there was more documented, live footage of us doing that, because the band is insane. And she's the best singer I've ever worked with, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. She's amazing.
You get a taste of that life.
Yeah.
And like at that spot, like, do you get an ego at all? Are you like, yo?
Oh, probably
I went from
did.
The XB to the fucking bus, baby. Let's go.
We're flying around. I probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really hope I was keeping it somewhat in check. But yeah, of course there was an ego, and I didn't realize the ego was there until the furniture business started.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
funny.
Or I mean, I knew it was there, but it became very apparent once the music kind of took a back seat for a second.
Interesting. What? Because you expected people to know like your profession or whatever, or elaborate on that.
I guess kind of the realization of like the conditioned response that is provided from being a musician your entire life. I get on stage every night. I do something for 3 to 5 minutes. Even if we're bad, even if there's 2 people in the room, someone is always going like, hey man, that was great.
Yeah, weird.
Right?
That's true.
And in the wood shop, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist at all. And there's another gratification that comes out of it. You find it internally. You find it when you hand off the piece at the end of the project, and the client gets to see it. But I went from a whole lifetime of that to just like okay, I'm like sanding. It's hot. I'm covered in sawdust. It's like, do
Applause.
you care? Do you? No, okay.
Yeah.
Just
And you're not really like internet guy either. Like you're not
no.
like out here being like, look, I just finished this.
Yeah, no. So like, it's a weird shift.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it wasn't, I mean, you had a lot of years of touring from then until the wood business. No,
Yeah. I was on the road basically from 2010 to 2018.
Get into a little bit of that. That's fun. That's so like you made it, right? Like you go from Sia and then
Sia,
like give me the path. Tell me the fun ones.
I did a very brief couple of shows with Brandon Flowers from The Killers on his solo record. When I was out with Sia, I was in Australia for a month and a half. A really fun tour. It also happened in January, February, which meant I got to miss winter for the first time in my life ever, having grown up in the Northeast.
Australia is the summer, right?
Yeah. It was incredible. And I was like, oh, I'm way happier. I'm way more satisfied if I don't have to deal with the winter.
Yeah.
So that prompted my move to LA. And then in 2012, I moved to LA. I was also touring with this band Dispatch for a little bit. They're like a Boston jam band. Sia's bass player, my buddy Jasper, pulled me in with Tegan and Sara and said, hey, I think you'd be a good fit for this band. Ended up taking over that gig from a guy named Jason McGurr, who's the longest standing drummer in Death Cab for Cutie.
What the fuck?
He's also a superhero of mine. I had to audition in front of him on his drums. It was horrifying. And Tegan and Sara was for two long years. The first year we were out 290 days. I had 70 days at home. The next year I had 100 days at home. So after the first year, I was like, I'm getting rid of my house. I don't need to have a place. And I was nomadic for about a year and a half.
No way. Was that pretty fun?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was incredible. We have a stopover in Switzerland and we have 10 days off till we go to Asia. Yeah, I'll go to Rome. Why not?
Like, that works out. I don't have a house.
Yeah,
sure.
I don't need to do anything.
That's so sick. So you were just in it, like full on, like touring the world.
Yeah.
Fully committed at the highest level.
Yeah. Tour to tour. Jasper and I ended up touring with this woman, Joy Williams, for a little bit. She was in a band called The Civil Wars that did really well. That tour kind of ended abruptly. And then my buddy Stacey Jones, who is Miley Cyrus's drummer, he called me up and was like, hey, I have this new kid, Troye Sivan. He's up and coming YouTuber, but he's got a great voice. What do you, would you be interested? And I said, sure. And we were on the road for a long time. That was 2015 to 18.
He's a legend. He's so good.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
He's incredible and an amazing human and so talented and so kind and giving with his time. And he's great.
Dude, so you've got like years in the game of like full touring, like more days on the road than off the road in a year.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
For sure.
And then you said you did Weezer too?
Yeah, Weezer is one of these random one-off moments.
Yeah.
They're doing a private gig for Andrew Yang for his campaign and the drummer couldn't make it. And so it was just like, hey, can you go out and rehearse? Well, there's no rehearsal. You'll have to rehearse on the jet on the way to the gig. Yeah, it was my first time on a private jet. PJ. And I'm just like sitting here with brushes on the fucking tray, just like, okay, this is a song I've been playing, since I was in high school.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
is this really happening? Actually, that was a bit of a full circle moment because in New York, friends of mine had been doing a Weezer tribute show where they play the Blue Album front to back, note for note. And I subbed once for that gig.
No way.
And it was a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden I'm like here playing this gig with these guys going like, oh, this isn't the cover band. This isn't that tribute act. Like you're playing. You're
going through the same motions and you're like, wait, this sounds really good tonight.
It's like, why does this sound way more authentic?
They're on tonight.
Yeah. So, it was just that one gig. And actually the very last gig I did before pandemic was like a duo show with Rivers for some private corporate event.
Wow.
And that was just weird. And it was like a restaurateur's convention. And yeah, the weird stuff still happens all the time.
Yeah, that's still there.
Yeah.
Here's a question to like kind of reverse engineer it for somebody who maybe relates to your story or wants to follow a similar path. Is there a lesson to be learned in the moment of going from lesser known bands to getting the Sia break? Like, did life change? Is there something of like, once you level up once and prove it there, that it kind of maintains you a higher level? Or if you were to go back and break that down, is there anything to dissect there?
As much as I had supportive parents, as much as I was so gung-ho about being a musician for a living and having no alternate plan, society is always kind of like, if you're dating a girl and you meet their parents, and their parents are always like, so but if music doesn't work out, what's going on? Tell us about that.
Dude, yes.
And so I would say that those moments really kind of solidify the path that you feel like you need to be on. I don't know if whether you feel that spiritually, whether you feel that from an Excel sheet that you've documented with, formulas to determine whether or not you should be doing it. Like on any level, it's kind of just like accepting and encouraging the path that you have been shown or been given or looking at,
It's really interesting for an answer, because I was almost expecting, like, that's more beautiful than what I was looking for. Thought that you'd say not looking for it. I was curious if it was like the industry then says, all right, he's legit.
Oh yeah.
But I like your answer of like, it's you. Like it solidifies it for you. It gives you that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like as a hired gun for all these artists too, like it's pretty rare that you will get that external validation on a grandiose level.
Yeah.
So you almost have to constantly do that for yourself,
right,
in order to maintain that.
Yeah, that's true.
Your friends will do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents will do it for you. Family do it for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah.
So another random question is, before we get to the next chapter, do you have any like studio credits or anything? Was that ever a part of your life?
Yeah. It's funny. I've been thinking about this recently more and more because I have been doing more studio work over the past 5 years, but in film and TV.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So the studio credits thing is, for whatever reason, it just hasn't materialized in a really meaningful resume packing.
Right. You're not like Danny Elfman over here scoring stuff. No,
I'm not,
recording.
I'm not Joey Waronker. I'm not Josh Freese. Like there's a million drummers who are those people. So, there's that. Mm-hmm. I'm 98% of the drums on that Pixar movie, Luca.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Okay. So you've done some pretty legit stuff in film and TV and video games.
Yeah. Mostly in part to my buddy, Dan Romer. There's other composers that I've been working with more and more. I just played a few cues for a movie called I Love My Dad, which is this new Patton Oswalt movie. It's hysterical. Highly recommend it.
Damn. All right.
There's an HBO show called Station 11 that I recorded most of the drums for. I'm in the process of doing Superman and Lois season 3 right now. There's a show on Netflix called Maniac, a show called Easy. Recorded all the drums for those.
I don't know anything about that. Mm-hmm. I have no idea how music crosses over. Is that a cool way to like be home? Like I'd imagine a lot of that happens in LA. Like is that, how has that been? How's that experience in the juxtaposition to touring and like?
Yeah, well, I mean, this kind of crosses over into the next chapter in a way.
Okay, well, perfect then.
Yeah, I have a furniture business.
Yeah. It
occupies a very large warehouse space.
Yeah.
Turns out that warehouse space sounds great for theatrical drums.
No way.
So if Superman, for instance, happening right now, I'll work a day at the shop.
Yeah.
Wood, saws, hammers, nails. That's not at all what I do.
Saws, hammers, nails.
It's wood, glue, and clamps, and it's complicated. And then I'll take a dinner break, and then at 7, I'll set up all my recording gear in the wood shop.
No way.
And then I'll record in the shop.
No way.
Because, I mean, it's a 3,500 square foot space, right? There are a lot of, it's hard to get a studio that size in most places. Yeah. It's hard to get a studio that size for under, $2,000 a day. So if I can just do that in my warehouse and it sounds as big, it's not going to sound as good. I don't have great isolation. If there's a dog outside, if there's a loud car driving by, it's going to end up on the recording and I have to edit and I have to go back and re-record it.
Right. But still how big that is. And it's kind of worth it to work around that.
And that has become like the new aha moment for me is like,
no way.
We all want the playground, right? Yeah. We all want to have a central location where we can do a bunch of like really fun stuff that is inspiring and creative and pushes us. And now I have this space where I can do that and it feels great,
Dude. Okay. So like let's really get into this chapter. Cause you said one thing where I was like, Oh, damn. Did the chapter happen at COVID? Was that the thing that forced the chapter? Because if you were touring super heavy,
Yeah.
was that a moment where you're like, oh shit, I got to rethink this? Or was it something that you had been wanting to do before that?
Yeah, it was kind of, it's interesting. Everybody, a lot of my friends anyway, have said like you timed that perfectly without intentionally timing it perfectly. Was out on the road with Troy Sivan for a very long time.
Yeah.
It was the top of 2018. We had 2 months off, and it was the first time in my life since the age of 3 that I had become uninspired to play drums.
Damn.
And that it wasn't bringing me the joy that it did. I wasn't pursuing perfection. I wasn't trying to get better. It was just kind of running on its own. And yeah,
dude, I feel you. I like when I was tour managing, like it was every day was a dream come true.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm in a new city. I'm with all my best friends. This is fun. I get to explore. And then like this tiny creep and you're like, fuck, I'm like not that stoked.
Yeah.
And like, I like miss this thing, or like I really don't care about it. It's a weird mental thing.
Oh, I can't go to another wedding of people I care about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, whatever those tiny nuanced things are, like you feel that like I was getting jaded at my favorite thing. And I was like, that's not a spot I want to be at. So you kind of felt that.
Totally. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely. The one pillar that had always brought me joy and happiness was like not showing up.
And that's what a crazy, I mean, for me, that was one of the hardest times in my life, because that's your identity. That's your happy place. That's your career. That's everything you know. Maybe this is how people end up unhappy in life, but it's like, if you don't have the courage to say that to yourself or to others, or to think about a way to reinvent it, you probably keep doing the thing.
Totally.
But you had this moment where you're like, oh shit, I got to think about this.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I was like, what's going to bring me back to that?
Whoa. Okay.
I'd always had a fascination with architecture and design and furniture and how things are built, how things function, but never made the space in my life to really investigate it that heavily. I ended up doing a record with a guy named Vaughn Robinson, who was a full-time interior and industrial designer who loved music and who had grown up, you know, listening to XTC and a lot of like cool 80s new wave and like also like quirky pop records. Sick. And wanted to make a record. And I ended up playing on his record. And throughout that, just like the bug was instantly grabbed, where everything I looked at was just like, how was that designed? How was that built? What's the function of that? Like, what is that? What kind of purpose does that serve the user? What does it do to the space around it? But that, so you know, and cool. that was 2014. So between 2014 and 18, maybe it was even earlier, like 2008.
It was a journey.
I just had always like just been interested in design and like didn't realize it. And I said like, all right, well, where's the first place I want to start? Like, I love the aesthetic of Japanese woodwork. I love the aesthetic of Scandinavian furniture. Can I combine the two? How do I do that? I guess I have to take a woodworking apprenticeship and figure that out. So I found this guy on Instagram who somehow was connected via some drum world stuff. He, you know, I didn't really figure it out, but I just reached out to him. I was like, hey man, can I just come hang out at your shop? I just want to see what you do and how you do it. I'm super fascinated. Sick. And he was, bless this guy, he was so gracious. And he was like, man, of course, like I'm in the Bay Area. Next time you're up here, just come and hang out.
Dude.
And I walk into his shop and he's got drums in the corner of his shop. No he's like, yeah, I used to tour as a drummer for a while. I was
Stop
like, get the fuck out of here.
Stop
all right,
it. No way. This is another moment where like, as the podcast host, I stop and point out something that I think is so important, of just like, shout out to those people. Like, I hope people always pay that forward. Like, the people that are willing to mentor, the people that are willing to like see the random DM or message or email or whatever and take a chance on somebody. Like, I think it takes, on the person reaching out, being vulnerable, I think you have to be honest and authentic, but like, shout out. Like, that's so special when that happens. So you great. Experienced that.
Yeah. And obviously now, like, I, you know, any chance I get, if a friend is like, I would love to come see the shop and see what you do, I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Come in.
Yep.
Come hang out. Do you want to build something? Let's show you how to build something. Yeah. So I did this apprenticeship and the world, you know, like, I don't know. I kind of took it as a great sign. Like, that's, as I was in the apprenticeship with him, as I was in his office, I got the call that I might be working with Miley Cyrus later that year.
Okay.
So it was just like,
Wow.
okay, this means I'm doing the right thing. That's how I took it. Maybe that's not how you're supposed, but I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm in the right
Dude.
place. So
Yeah.
we're going to go with it. I did some touring with Miley. I came back. I started building really shitty furniture for my house.
Yes.
I'm so glad it doesn't exist anymore. There's a couple things that might. Miley stuff is happening. I get back. Dan Romer again, moving into a new house. I need a desk for my recording studio. Do you want to just like try and build me something?
Whoa. Okay.
And it just clicked.
Oh,
Yeah.
you found your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or one of the things.
One of, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like, instead of you just making, like copying what you saw as a table or something, it was a challenge to be like,
Yeah.
I know music. I know woodworking.
Yeah. Music furniture is really ugly and really clunky
Yeah.
and really cheaply made.
There you go.
Let's like make some
This
good
was
stuff.
a really fun challenge. And it worked. Yeah.
Yeah. And it worked. And from there it's snowballed and scaled pretty quickly, it seems. I would say that it wasn't full time until COVID hit.
Got it.
There would be a little tour here and there, playing on some TV shows, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I build a desk here and there. Okay, I build like a table for someone. And then COVID happened. We all stopped. I went back to Connecticut for a few months. And then in June of 2020, it was like everyone was sitting at home. Everyone was going like, why did I buy this cheap furniture in the first place? I'm recording at home. I need someone who can build me something to help me record at home that I want to look at. Because my partner is like, you're putting this in the living room of our house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, wait, well, I don't want to look at that every day.
Right.
Make something nice. Make something we can look at and also eat dinner at if we need to, like whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's when it really solidified. So like I did get started pre-COVID, but I would say COVID is really what like cemented it as a permanent structure in my life. Yeah.
I don't think we've said the name of the studio once yet.
Oh, okay. It's Christgau Design.
Okay.
Adam Christgau, my last name. Really inventive, really like pushing the envelope here. Yeah.
It's really, really, well, I mean, honestly though, I've struggled so much with naming shit.
Oh, I hate it.
It's the worst.
It's the worst.
Like, that's so timeless. Like,
and I was, like, fuck me for even saying this. I think I'm the only Adam Christgau that exists, or at least I'm the only one that comes up when you Google it.
Stuff.
Right. So I was just like,
SEO.
I don't need to make a name and then like worry that there's 3 other bands that already have that name and I was a lawsuit and whatever.
Right.
Christgau Design it is. Yeah.
Sick. So, and that for a listener, like that was your moment of like, you found your thing was music furniture. Or what do you call that? Like, I'm not so educated in that world. Like, how do you?
Yeah, recording studio furniture. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
And will you do stuff outside of that as well?
Oh, I absolutely do. Sick. Yeah, and that's like honestly the goal. Music related furniture is great, but it's generally has to be customized per piece. Everybody has a different workflow. Everybody has different gear.
Yeah.
So we also do tables, beds, credenzas, coffee tables, conference tables, bigger industrial items, things like that.
Yeah. Wow. So it's like you have become a full functioning business of like custom furniture, custom anything.
Yeah.
All wood, or have you gone outside of that now?
It's mostly wood.
Yeah.
I mean, we have metal components. There's times where I'll get metal legs fabricated. I integrate marble here and there.
Yeah.
I really want to get into lighting at some point.
Wow. But so you've like really built a business, and this is again something that I get so excited to talk about, because my natural path of life is like I had the beginning of music, and then like we talked about, it's like you have this moment where you're like, wait, am I not in love with this? And obviously you've kind of found your love in that again, and you've like have this perfect balance. But I found myself getting so excited about creative careers and my entrepreneurial friends.
Yeah.
Just basically taking an idea, taking something you're passionate about and sending it and like going for it and getting it to the spot where it's functional. So I'm so equally as excited to hear about that. And I think it's really inspiring because it's proof that it's not like you don't have to, even if you grew up at 4 years old just playing the drums, there's more to life, and you can do so much more. And I think that's really cool to talk about.
Thanks, man. I mean, it's certainly been very eye-opening.
Yeah.
To kind of go like, wait, it is possible to do, start something when you're, 36, 37. And it's like, you're like, wait, I can do this. This can work. Like if I if music all of a sudden doesn't work out, COVID,
Yeah.
then I have something that's going to sustain that. And I also have, now it's created this really incredible space for me selfishly, where every time I do get to go and play drums, I'm loving it every minute that I get. It's way more fun.
I need to come see this space.
Please come by.
So sick. Not only did you get to scratch that creative itch and really double down and do the thing, it's brought a new wave of inspiration to your original passion of drums.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so sick. And I think there's also something in that of like, that was never the plan. You were never like, oh, the drums for Superman are going to sound better when I open a furniture studio. Like that's not, but it's like, it's cool that just by doing it and circumstance and it coming together, all of these things have continued to unlock.
Yeah.
As we sit down right now, are you finding yourself like half? Like, do you want to get back out on the road? Have you been more fulfilled just running the studio, building stuff and doing some studio stuff? Like where does it sit?
It's not half right now. I would like it to be half if possible.
Yeah.
I did have folks working for me while I was gone, which was really helpful and it's great. And I'm so stoked to like be building a team, but at the same time, it's so custom in nature. It's hard to really like release the grip on that. My first tour in about 4 years was Tegan and Sara in October, November.
Yeah.
And it was great. And it was like, it was the perfect length. It was a month long. I could come back. I had plenty of furniture work to get to, but nobody was really left hanging in the lurches there, wondering where their pieces are.
Yeah.
I think, sorry if anybody's waiting.
I think that's sick though. Like if my custom builder homie was like, yo, BRB, I got to go play drums for Tegan and Sara around the world, I'd be like, bet.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt when you're like, I'm going to play SNL with Miley Cyrus. I'm sorry, I gotta go. And people are like, yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
Like I'll tape it.
Yeah. Right?
Like where can I send me a link when it's done?
So sick.
I'm really grateful to have that. Now the biggest challenge I'm finding is I end up working with a lot of composers who I really admire, or musicians who I, really look up to their work and would love to work with at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing a table into their dining room and it's great, but it's really hard, kind of like you and I, like you met me at a time when it was more furniture than it was music and we've had to dig into the music side. It's really hard to not be like, hey, I play drums too, and here's my script I wrote. Would you read it? I know I'm just giving you a ride to your job today. Would you read my script? Like I don't ever want to be that human.
That tact. Like you kind of read the room, that like how to separate the two.
Yeah. So that's the biggest challenge right now, is like kind of convincing people that I do both of these things at an equal pace, I guess you could say.
Right. And like you're professional at both. Like you can hold your own at both. Like you're like, oh, it's like neither one is just your cute hobby. Like it's like, no, you really do this. Did you run into any like starting a like legitimate business? Like was that something that came natural to you, or how?
No, it's still not. I'm having. I need help.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really like running P&L sheets is like definitely not my forte.
Yeah,
I have no business schooling. I've learned the word scaling. I need to scale. That's good. That's something that I wish I had more of an acumen for, because it just wasn't taught in my family. Thankfully, like. I was always brought up just going like, yeah, be a musician. You should just do it. You love doing it. Go for it.
Just do it.
Don't worry about anything else.
It's funny. Like, thank you for being so honest on that, because I think like for me, if I was listening to a podcast like this and I'd hear that, like I wouldn't have even thought, like I'd stop at being like, I don't want to deal with like having to learn how to start a business. Like that's good for him. He got to make his own furniture business. So, like, the fact that you're like, nah, dude, just like, I just did it. Like I could be better at it, but like I just did it and it still worked, I think is almost more encouraging.
Cool. Great.
Right? Like, you know what I'm saying though, is like, it's cool that you're just like, I could be better. Like, I'm still learning. And like, that's cool. Like I find that so much more encouraging, that it's like, you don't have to be the fucking Harvard MBA business degree, whatever, to be like, no, you know what? It's time to build furniture. Like, no, like you had an artistic skill, or you had this trade skill, however you define that, and you just made it work.
I mean, that's the creative's pursuit, right? Like, if you are creative, if you are an artist, we all know that perfection is not possible. But the journey is like the striving for the perfection.
Yeah.
The same thing comes in here is like, I want to get better at building stuff. I would love to be a better business person. But for me, like the journey of figuring that out is just as exciting. You know what I mean? Whenever possible. Like that's what keeps you going.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And if you're not going for that, then like you need to change things in your life to figure out how you can put things in place to go for that, whatever it is. I've had talks recently with friends who are just like, I don't know, I was a successful musician and now I'm like writing books and TV and like the music is just like not satisfying. And is that a problem? And it's like, no, it's not a problem. You just have like creative pursuits that are pulling you in other directions.
Yeah.
And you're a creative and you like, if something feels stagnant, then it's okay to put that on the shelf for a little bit and push towards something else that's going to like fulfill that creative need inside you.
It's such a cool lesson to share and through real life experience, because like, I know I personally, like I didn't even play music, right? It was just, I just knew that world.
Yeah.
And it was a really scary, weird identity crisis thing of like, I don't know if I love this anymore, but it's all I know. And forever I thought this was going to be the thing. How do you shift? So I think like sharing those stories and kind of like, I just think that there's nothing good that comes out of that. And it's super encouraging. And it's weird. It's like a weird moment in your life. And it's not that everybody has to go through that either. I think a lot of people do just stay in their lane forever and it's sick.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can pivot, and that doesn't mean that you then have to just go get the desk job, that pivoting can stay creative and continue to inspire and be synergistic with what you're doing is fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. I love that, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you were to go back to yourself at any point in your career, but like the most trying or the most uncertain, what point do you go back to and what do you tell yourself then with what you know now?
You know, it's interesting. It's like, it's trusting the process has always been a common theme, because for every rocky moment that I've had, for every moment of doubt, there's always like a high peak to counteract that. And I think as long as you take time to reflect in those successful moments, that can kind of outweigh the bad shit that gets in the way of all that.
You just had another moment.
Oh, did I? All right.
Yeah. Well, because like for me, like that's at least like that's my advice that lately I've like really continued to tell myself is I say enjoy the process, but it's specifically that it's just be present in the moment, but like learn from all of it. And like the highs and the lows, like whatever you're doing, whatever is meant for you will come, whatever isn't will pass. Like that is something lately that I have embraced a lot, instead of like this, not FOMO, but just the like, I have to be doing this, and this. So this lines up. So this goal happens by this age, of just like show up, do your best, enjoy the process, and it's going to work is something that like, even now me, if I could go back, like I'm going to have to keep telling myself, like I'll tell that to 18-year-old me, I'll tell that to 25-year-old me, but I think I'm just going to have to keep telling that to me.
Man. I mean, since I was like in my early 20s, my mom has been saying, trust the timing to me.
Oh, fuck.
And it's just like, yeah. Okay.
And when you're young, you don't want to hear it. You're like, okay,
whatever, mom.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, yep. Tell everybody else. Yeah.
Run it up, Ma. Run it up. What's the best place for everyone to find you?
On Instagram, it's at Adam Christgau.
Yeah.
That's ADAMCHRISTGAU. And it's also the furniture page is at Christgau Design.
Sick.
And same with the website, adamchrisgau.com, chrisgaudesign.com.
Sick. Cool. I'll make sure to link those then too.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Really fun. I like, again, we were friends first, and to hear your story, I'm like, oh fuck, you really do this. Like it's cool. Man. It like makes me more excited for the homie, you know?
I appreciate it so much. I mean, you bring it out of people. So thank you for doing that.